Okay, we're live.
Three, two, one. Hello, Internet. I think this is my favorite show that we do of the year on inThirty. It is kind of the State of the Union, or let's just call it the year in review with Drew. Drew Curtis of Fark.com is our special guest. You'll get to see him in a second, but first let me throw it to Haim Cohen of HaimTime.com.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I, too, think that this is one of the greater shows that we do every year.
So, Drew, I have a pressing question that I have to ask you. This is the most important thing. The thing that's been on my mind since we last spoke is did you get a prostate exam this year? Are you a healthy man?
Actually, no, I didn't, as it turns out. But I am a healthy man.
Okay, well, I would just like to remind you that you're not super up there in age or anything, but yes, get a prostate exam as soon as you possibly can. Okay.
Oh, I had one last year, and it was so good it held me for 2 years.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Good, all right. And then you don't. All right. You don't need a new one for 2015. You can even put it off for 3. All right, Haim. Where do you want to get started? Are we going to talk about Florida or something? What is your idea? What is your litany of questions for Drew to make the most out of this precious 30 minutes that we have with the King of Kentucky?
Happened in the last year. If not, I can just go to his website and we can pull up the top headlines and just discuss it.
Okay, then do it, Haim, but do it quickly. Try to convince people that you are at least remotely prepared for this, probably our last broadcast of 2014. Maybe not, but potentially. Haim, while you troll Fark to try and make this show interesting, I will do my job. And Drew, how cool is this North Korea thing? I think this is just amazing, and I'm very very jealous of Franco and Rogan. I think that they hit the jackpot.
Yeah, they did actually. The problem they had is that everybody, all the movie theaters, tried to drop the film, which not exactly their fault, but at the same time, it's like I guess they didn't want to have all their embarrassing emails thrown out there, which I'm sure they're as hilarious as Sony's were. But so it looks like they're going to do a limited release on Christmas Day, though. So
And you're lucky that. Now, do you have an Alamo Theater by you?
Hey, what?
What is it, Alamo Theaters? The theater that's showing it?
No, unfortunately, I don't. We've got bullshit theaters here in Kentucky, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here.
But
we just have the multinational corporation theaters.
Yeah.
If you developed a piece of satire that was so inflammatory that you got Kim Jong-un to hack Fark, right? Like, come on, wouldn't that be a feather in your cap?
Hell yeah.
Right? So that's how I'm looking at it. These guys, they at the meta level, they really I think they own cinema. That's they did it. Imagine if someone did this during World War II. Charlie Chaplin with The Great Dictator. Timeline didn't work out, but this is
exactly. No, it's fantastic. I will say this though, is one disturbing trend I've seen in media is whenever anything happens, somebody writes an article saying, "Oh, well, that's not possible," and then writing a bunch of counter stuff. The problem is anybody who knows anything about hacking, who's read the arguments that North Korea couldn't have done this, realizes that that's just a bunch of crap. They totally could have done this. Normally, when you hack a company, you own them for several months, maybe years in this case, who knows? I say they did it. There's no doubt.
It seems that it's possible that maybe there were a number of there are companies that have backdoors that have been opened years ago, and that it was the impending release of the interview that caused them to wreak havoc.
Yeah. They've been in there the entire time, but they had no reason to activate anything until now.
Exactly. Okay, and by the way...
Now, which famous American celebrity? So the two choices are Bill Clinton or Dennis Rodman saves the day.
So for comedic effect, I hope it's Bill Clinton, but Dennis Rodman has been over there a lot more than Bill Clinton has, but I'm not sure that he has a plan. So that'd be a good movie.
It's just we've come to the point where Dennis Rodman has less comedic effect than a former president of the United States. He got a blowjob once. There was a cigar involved for 30 seconds. I mean,
I gotta say, this is why if it comes down to Hillary Clinton versus anybody in 2016, I want Hillary Clinton because I want to see what happens with Bill being the first man walking through the White House in his bathrobe. Oh, sorry, didn't you guys had a press conference here? Oh, holy crap, my bad.
Exactly.
I can't wait. I want to see that every week. It'd be great.
Yeah, he deserves it. Okay, so Haim, are you ready to count down for us?
Well, look, I think this is the year of hacking. I think we have a huge number of hacks, And I was going to say, what's the best one? But I think it's no question that this Sony hack is like the epic fail, the best one of the
It
year.
sounds to me like we have got to just go down the news because you are unprepared, and we'll let you off the hook because you have a new baby. But if that's the case, let's own it, and then go to okay. I will work backwards in police brutality. It's funny on Fark, right? It was funny up until like
Until
the
stuff got
summer.
serious, yeah.
So I mean, has that changed how you edit things, or I mean, that certainly in the last couple of months it has become an initiative people talking about. It's been important for a long time, but how does Spark handle it?
So, not to pull a stereotype here, but unlike most people, I had black friends growing up. They got pulled over all the time, so I kind of get the issue that they've got going on there. And that said, my limit for cop brutality stuff is set at 3, and we passed that earlier this week. So I was actually doing an interview this morning where they said, "Hey, what about the thing in Newark?" And I'm like, "No, I'm out. I'm done."
Wait, a thing in Newark?
No, New York. New
York. I'm like, well, yeah, we heard the things about New York, and one of the funny things that we hear is that, at least with Darren Wilson, is that he has more money now than he ever did. All these people are coming out of the woodwork to support him, and I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be a lot more of this, and I don't know when it's going to end or how it's going to end. And
actually, I don't think that there's a lot more of this. I think there's the same amount of this that there ever has
Exactly.
been, but it's starting to get traction.
Exactly. So you think you've gotten your like black friend like ticket stamped. You had enough of them growing up. So is that your way of saying that you are into the issue at like you understand the subtleties of it or more, or you just like
because this was happening to my friends back when we were in high school. It was the same thing, driving around while brown. It was the running joke. But it's like I think though that to have a conversation about it now is a good thing. But if we're talking about brutality incidents, like the thing that happened in New York recently, I was just like, that's when I checked that out. I'm like, I'm done.
Okay, so and if we go back to traditional or another, when a cop ends up tussling with like a dumb white guy in Florida, that is still okay. We're still allowed to laugh about that, right?
It's kind of hilarious, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to check.
As long as it happens in Florida, right? I mean,
exactly. We can't mess with Florida. Anything's game on in Florida. There's no doubt.
So I could talk police brutality for a very long time. I'm going to move to a different issue. These are how I've crystallized the issues in my mind in the last 5 minutes since we started the show. So this is really some deep.
Can I guess? Is it Ebola?
No, Han, come on. We want to save Ebola towards the end. That's
a big one.
Those are softball ones. But
midterm elections.
The anti-intellectualism that is rampant in the United States, I think that FARC actually does a very good job of crystallizing it in some ways. What with the Florida story. I don't want to pin it all on one state, but like
it is kind of their fault though.
Are you ready to come down and is that what's going on? Is that a problem in the United States versus the rest of the developed world? Do you see it as being unique to us, or that we have our special brand of it or something?
Actually, so here's an interesting. I see a different meta problem with it, which is basically, and this happened with the North Korea thing, right? What I've noticed is that whenever anything happens internationally or nationally or whatever that makes a big splash, somebody writes a counter article saying that's not possible, it couldn't happen, and it gets traction within whatever the hell group it's not necessarily targeted for. But to give you a sort of a 30,000 foot view on how news is written now. They've given up on trying to find the truth. What they're actually trying to do is like what would resonate. And so, especially with the North Korea thing, and this is what drove me nuts about it, the people that said, oh, there's no way North Korea could have hacked them. Well, that's complete garbage, actually. Of course North Korea could hack them. But that resonated, and everybody ran that damn story. And so it's not anti-intellectualism that's the problem. It's the fact that going against the grain picks up another demographic. It's essentially how Fox News started.
I had the unfortunate occurrence of seeing the show Outnumbered on Fox News, which is like 4 or 5 women and 1 man apparently, and it's on presumably every day throughout the week.
That sounds fantastic, by the way.
I can't believe that it exists. But
4 blonde-haired women and 1 guy.
No. I think the lead is actually a brunette. But it seems like speculation has replaced a lot of the news gathering that goes on. Right?
Yeah, absolutely it has. Well, because open questions are relevant to random people, and the problem with that is that, you know, I see a lot of like counter stuff, and it's not that the media is trying to throw misinformation out there. They're trying to pitch stuff that people will latch onto, which ends up being the same thing. So it doesn't matter what the, or to give you a better example, like a friend of mine says, it doesn't matter if your mantra is don't do evil. If all you do is evil, then you're evil. Well, that's what's happening in journalism right now.
You're saying if your mantra is fair and balanced, it doesn't matter if that's your mantra, if you're not fair and balanced all the time.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing? Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
okay. So
But I'm not talking Fox News. I'm talking like beyond that. I'm like, you know, any article that comes out now about anything, somebody always writes the counter, and it's very easy. All I gotta say is like, oh, so for example, let's say tomorrow that like Russia invades the Ukraine. So my counter article would be Russia did not invade the Ukraine. This was made up. It's complete crap, and this is not conspiracy theory stuff. You write it because people glom onto it and it drives traffic. You get what I'm saying? The people that are creating this stuff don't believe it.
So it seems to me then there's a more and more narrow kind there's a more narrow room than ever for regular journalistic news reporting, because between what you're describing and the Daily Show kind of mentality of covering news, or even Rachel Maddow, it's news about the news. It's not news itself. So that's how people get their tidbits.
Right.
I mean, is there a way to say that 2000? Come on, let's tie this into the end of the year somehow.
They're not trying to inform; they're trying to attract. And the problem is that all bets are off. Like, that's essentially the BuzzFeed model. And I'm not crapping on the BuzzFeed model at all. It's pretty damn smart. But the problem is that mainstream media has picked up on this, and they're not trying to inform; they're trying to attract. They've thrown it all off at this point. They're like, okay, game on, anything's possible. We just want to try to draw eyeballs. That's why CNN did the missing plane flight for like a solid month, because they're doing stats online and finding out this is what people actually want to read. They want, I mean, not me, not you, but enough people to make where it makes sense to keep doing it.
This is how we can tie this into the end of the year.
I want to know, is Drew secretly the Twitter account saved you a click? Because he's talking in that way that all he wants to do is just spoil the you won't believe what happened next stories.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it. I mean, well, like I said, I've jumped ahead of the entire gamut there. It's like, this is why they're doing what they're doing, and this is where it's going.
So Google, I think they this is one way we could have looked at things if we had been more prepared in time. The 10 most edited Wikipedia articles for the year, I think it's an interesting way, or the 10 biggest Google searches. But apparently the missing, not the shot down and found in pieces in the Ukraine Malaysian aircraft, that story made its way into the top 10 searches for the year. And Google's take on it was that people were searching, what was it, MLH 730, whatever the
right, yeah. There was the one that crashed in the Indian Ocean, the other one that crashed over the Ukraine.
But Google's take was that people were searching for the call letters and then the word found instead of lost. So that meant that the population at large was really optimistic. That's what their take was.
I have no idea, honestly. I don't know how to read that.
Well, okay, but
I will say this, is those searches drive the news cycle. That's the thing, because everybody who does news watches that also.
And it seems to me that if that is the thing that Anderson Cooper is blah 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 blahing about for hours on CNN, and not to say that he didn't cover Ferguson pretty extensively, but there's less room than for important stuff, because a missing plane, the families of the people that were on it, all of that, and in principle, I'd kind of like to hear about it just to know and to be in the zeitgeist, but it's no more newsworthy really than a fire a fire that people get rescued from or something.
So here's the unlock on news. It turns out that the relative importance of the thing that everybody wants to talk about has never been a factor in why it ever got on the news. And once you understand that, everything else drops into place.
Oh, can you repeat the relevance and the what?
The relative importance of anything to our lives has never been a factor in the decision making of why something got on the news.
Because this is not a journal. It is not. CNN is not a journalism school.
No, but it's never been like that.
Never. Okay.
A recent development. That's been a.
You don't think that Walter Cronkite was smoking a cigar and drinking scotch?
Nah. So Cronkite did something different. I mean, he was doing both those things, but Cronkite did something that was interesting. I learned this from talking to people at the Poynter Institute, going down there. because they always talk about Cronkite and Murrow and all those guys, and they're like, yeah, they were really great. And I'm like, okay, so what about them was great? And they're like, well, people trusted them. And I was like, okay, well, maybe, but that can't have been all it was. There's no way. I mean, I could trust somebody, but I don't necessarily care what they say. So I looked into it, and it turns out that what they actually did was that they provided context to the news cycle. They told you why you should care about the thing you don't currently care about. So, for example, Cronkite made people care about Vietnam in a way that nobody has cared about Afghanistan.
Interesting. What did he? I mean, just off the top of your head, did he say that eventually your kids are going to end up in Vietnam? Did he say that Russia is going to become more powerful in the world if the communists win there? I mean, what was he?
He pointed out that it was wrong and pointless, and in a very subtle way, in a way that they didn't persecute him for doing it. He was basically like, "This is a complete waste of time. Why are we all about this? This makes no sense." But he did it in a way, and it wasn't the message; it was the way he said it. It was context.
So
the way he said, "This is why you should care," and that's the X factor, because you can't copy that. Like, that is not a thing that is teachable. You either got it or you don't.
So, but isn't that what Bill O'Reilly does at the end of his show, or what is it, Rachel Maddow, Keith Olbermann? They just do it in a really polarizing way.
Right. Well, and the reason they do it is because polarizing is easy, but it still works.
So the point is,
that's exactly what they're doing. That's it.
Because that's what I saw on Fox News today on that show, at The Outnumbered, which just like if I don't know why Jon Stewart's like Team of 30 isn't watching that show more, because they would give that's like, I don't know, they've got 10 hours of material in a 1 hour block of that show. Anyway, but yeah, if you want to just like stab someone in the eye, it's really easy to figure out how to do it. You know, it's like,
right.
You know, and they just at the end of every circuitous, like, rhetorical route that they were jogging on, it was Obama is a bad president.
Right.
I mean,
well, because that's easy.
Yeah, exactly. So and
you don't have to teach that.
It's not even sure. You can't even get into whether or not it's true or not, because that was that is the kludge.
What I did find out about this, and this is my own like thinking about it, is that everyone hates Obama for some reason. We just can't agree on how much we hate him, to the point that that's why we say he's a bad president. That's all I hear.
I don't hate him. I just wanted him to be more Samuel L. Jackson and less like Grover Cleveland.
Okay, so you don't like
that.
Know. I don't like the fact that he's spying on us, and the Republicans hate everything about him, and it's like some sort of, I hate him more than you, and therefore you're a bad Republican, or whatever it is. That's all I hear. How much the president is terrible, but no one's going to give him credit for anything that he's done.
So if we had Cronkite, he would give us context, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah. So Cronkite would basically say, here's the different way you should look at it. And I don't have that, by the way, but that is what The Daily Show does. At the same time, it's like that's why people get their news from The Daily Show. It's because of context. It's like, and that's what FARC does, actually. That's actually our thing. We're like, most of the time we're saying, go check this out because it's funny, but once in a while, there is another reason.
And it seems like you build up a lot of credibility. You, Jon Stewart, whoever. If you're 99% funny, like if that's kind of the tune that you're singing, when you stop and you're like, hey, now I'm gonna pause, check this out because it is important. You believe it. No, there's no way that CNN could put a news alert up on their screen that I'd be like, oh, that's actually important. Because no,
yeah.
it is going to be Angelina Jolie landed
Kim
in Malawi.
Kardashian's sister posed naked while she was pregnant. Newsflash.
Exactly. And they would just have to. They would literally have to just like murder Wolf Blitzer live on the air, or like shoot him with a stun gun until he had a heart attack to get my attention properly. Okay.
Yeah. Let me. I want to change the subject for a second. So
change it overall. Change it totally.
I don't know. Was it August? It was September, October, where FARC came out and said we're against misogyny now.
Oh yeah.
Where did that stem from? Like I was meaning to ask you. That came out all of a sudden, or where did that come from?
So, unfortunately, the answer is really boring, but it's true. We've been talking about it for about 18 months, and the Thursday before the Monday when we announced it, one of my female moderators said, are we actually going to get around to doing this at some point? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it Monday. Like, that was basically it. That's what happened. Like, we knew we needed to do it at some point, but, you know, so we set a deadline. We talked about it behind the scenes for about 4 days, and we launched it.
Well, the funny part is that there is an argument that misogyny was okay.
Or was it an argument that free speech ought not be chilled or censored basically for any reason? I mean,
yeah, so what's interesting was of all the guys that covered the story, I shouldn't say guys, but of all the guys that covered the story, The Vox actually nailed it. They talked to a free speech activist who pointed out that when there is a vocal majority that shouts down a minority, that's actually violating free speech more than anything else did.
Absolutely.
And so my thing is this, is like, and this is the way I've always thought about FARC. It's like, FARC is a house party. It's like you're coming over to my house and you're having a party in my house, which means if you walk in and you say you're a terrible host and your furniture is terrible and the food sucks and the beer is awful, then you know what, I'm going to throw you out. And that doesn't violate your free speech rights at all. That just means you can't be at my party.
Exactly. Walk down the block. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's okay. Go to free speech on the street. That's fine. I'm not anti-free speech. I'm just like, I don't want this here.
Well, I agreed with it. I think a lot of people did. It was just funny that all of a sudden this thing came out that FARC is doing it, and then there was like a news cycle about this.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised by that too. But at the same time, I think it was because I think that the sites that covered it heavily have been considering doing the same thing themselves. And so they sort of a dry run for them to try to test out whether or not this makes sense for them to do. In particular, Slate's take on it, which I attacked direct on, was, FARC bans misogynistic speech. Is that even possible? And I'm like, yeah, when are you going to do it? And then the next day I was like, no, seriously, when are you going to do it? Because it turns out it was nothing but awesome. And the fact that you guys are sitting back and doing nothing about this means you're complacent and idiots.
So did anyone make a meme with your picture and it said something like, first they came for the misogynists and I did not speak out because I was not a misogynist, and then they came for the racist and I did not speak out because I was not a racist, or something like that. I mean,
I didn't see that, but that sounds hilarious.
So it seems like that was a good decision. You're standing by it, certainly.
Well, no, I mean, we did it for a right reason, and there was no strategy behind it, and there was actually no impetus. Like, that was the one thing that was the question I keep asking was like, why did you do this? And I wish I had a better story, but it was basically, when are we going to get around to it?
And it isn't kind of, you don't want to put yourself in a position where because it is, I think the house party analogy stands and it's a good one. You don't have to defend all speech at all times in all contexts.
No,
it's even more narrow than time, manner, and place restrictions. It's like, we're not talking about a minority position that's being shouted down here that we're further, censoring the minority. It's kind of just like a point of order. Like, hey, you've heard enough. Like, you're a bitch.
We don't want this at the party.
Yeah.
That was basically it. We don't want this at the party. You can't be like this. You can't be a dick to women at the party.
Yeah, and did you explain to people that they're more likely to get laid if they follow those rules, or is that
No, but
backwards?
I have a feeling that the people that don't understand that already are the ones we want to get rid of.
I see. Okay. So in order to get back to some form of end of year list, because if BuzzFeed does it, and we have to do it, and that's how it comes down to the Wikipedia article for the year. This is kind of a red herring that had the most edits was deaths in 2014. So a lot of people die. A lot of people are going to edit that article.
Oh, sure.
So that was number one. The next, with about half as many edits, is the Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Right.
So that was apparently updated all the time. Now here's one where I don't even know what this really means. Japanese dissonance during the Showa period. Anyone? Was there like an archaeological dig or something that I don't know?
Well, what was the Showa period exactly? Because they have an issue with World War II stuff.
That's what I'm thinking. That like comfort women or something. It is.
That must have been a Chinese thing, actually, in order to overwhelm that.
So apparently, the Showa period was dissent by Japanese citizens of the Empire of Japan during the reign of the Showa Emperor of Hirohito. So this was people that I guess were speaking out against the attack on Pearl Harbor,
right? Yeah,
and then trying to take over China and whatnot. So
there must have been a lot of China traffic, probably, is what I have to guess. But why, I don't know.
So none of us know the context for that. Unless Han, you want to wow us?
No. I'm surprised by how much news the two of you know, or the lack of my knowledge. Yeah. Maybe because it's baby brain, but
it's what I do every day, man. It's like I can't help it. It's like I know too much about everything. It's ridiculous.
So number 4, and we'll get. So this time, this is back in your house party. It was the Ebola virus epidemic in West Africa, which presumably is still going on, kind of probably how it was when Anderson Cooper was talking about it a lot. But that was number 4.
Yeah, it hasn't changed.
I mean, we went. So I watched The Baby from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock every night, and so I just put on something and the noise, and I turned to CNN, and it was just like you were saying before. They just constantly go at it, and all of a sudden something else happens, and nobody talks about Ebola anymore.
Yeah.
Like nothing. it's dead.
So Ebola is the narrative that runs behind the scenes, and then something actually occurs, then they switch off because they're like, thank God we don't have to talk about this crap anymore. In fact, CNN loves when there's breaking news because they can just get out of the bullshit and they don't have to talk about it. Like, and I say this as somebody who sat in the studio ops room multiple times. Like they're going crazy for some kind of breaking news event.
I mean, Wolf Blitzer has breaking news every 15 minutes.
Yeah, it really. They are crying wolf too much.
But it was funny. So over the summer, it went Michael Brown, Ebola, ISIS. Michael Brown, Ebola, ISIS. And then somebody in America has Ebola. Now it's Ebola. And like one article about ISIS, and it's like, no, I want to hear that they're murdering people in Iran or Iraq and Syria. But apparently, no, Ebola. Which nurse is getting Ebola? And it's like, oh, come on.
So you know what happened this year is that CNN instituted, and I don't know this for a fact, but this is my guess. CNN instituted a policy where they're watching their web traffic, and they're doing what's called A/B testing, where they're like checking out to find out what content resonates with people, and they're only reporting on that, no matter how stupid it is.
So what you need to do then is you need to get your Farkers on, and just have them get the what would otherwise be the B result 100 times in a row until Wolf Blitzer is talking about, like, I don't know, a parasitic infection of a chihuahua that once belonged to.
Well, that's gonna happen.
Anyway, I guess you don't.
Well, no, we have it. New Year's Eve with what is it? Anderson Cooper and Kathy Lee Gifford.
The promos for that make New Year's Eve look pretty sad.
I mean, after the first year, and how uncomfortable he was, you had to say that this would never happen again. And now it's on its third year. So they did something
He's
right.
not in charge, though, man. He's just the guy who's there.
And it's basically, he comes from, isn't he a Vanderbilt? Like, this is what the guy, I mean, it was cool while he was he was a war correspondent or something. All right, so if we get back to the list, the next one after
we got 3 minutes.
3 minutes? All right, let me read them off then. It is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, then the Israel-Gaza conflict of 2014.
Sure, probably.
Then shooting of Michael Brown.
Yep.
Then
wait, how far down is shooting of Michael Brown?
It's number 7.
Okay.
Number 7, with 5,400 edits. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, the one that was shot down over.
Yeah. Right.
Then the 2014 Pacific Typhoon season. Okay, and then here's the number 10 is the list of works by Eugene Guillaume, some French sculptor who died a really long time ago, and apparently, I don't know, like it was like a class in a French college or something to like add these pictures in, because he has 40. Okay. I'm just guessing. He has 4,200 edits, and he rounds out the 10th most edited article on Wikipedia.
Right. Yeah, but that's probably the best one of all of them, honestly. I gotta say, if I were to like hold up anything from this year that was awesome, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this sculptor, he really knew what he was doing. Okay, so Chaim, are we ready to end then? Are we ready to end?
Yeah.
Okay, so Drew, thank you for being with us. Thank you for doing the show from the car and from outside a bar, no less.
That's okay. Like I had a beer. I gotta get another one because it's empty.
What is 2015 going to be for Fark? You already squelched out misogyny. What are you going to do?
I have a strangely stupid thing in the works that's going to be maybe kind of awesome, and I can't tell you right now.
Give us one word, one secret, one like.
I'm taking a moonshot at something that doesn't have any relation to Fark at all.
Okay.
It's going to be weird.
All right. Good. Weird then. The word is weird. That is the word. That is the word.
Because it might work. Like it's one of those things like so crazy it might work, and if it does, it's gonna be really interesting.
Self-driving cars.
He's gonna create fake news now.
Yeah, no, not that. No, it's a complete right turn.
All right.
Right. Okay.
Very cool. All right. Thanks,
Drew.
This 30 minutes went very quickly because I had someone to bounce Chaim off of. All right.
Okay. Bye, everybody.